When caught, Hillary then deleted and acid washed. Nobody does that because of the
Well, it's out of style. I mean, I had a pair of those jeans, but
expense, but it's pretty conclusive. 33,000 emails in defiance of a congressional subpoena already launched. The subpoena was there, and she decided to delete, acid wash, and then smash and destroy her cell phones with a hammer.
So you're saying that foreign nationals would have a really hard time getting to those, unlike shit that was just stacked on a stage in a ballroom anybody can walk into at Mar-a-Lago. Gotcha.
And then they say, I participated in an obstruction?
Yes, yes. Yeah, you got a subpoena on the 11th. You delayed till the 23rd. You and Walt Nada got to tell your lawyers one thing, that that those boxes were going to remain in a locked room, like you had told the FBI and the DOJ that they would stay in that room and nobody would access them. And then after they left, and between that time and when your lawyer was going to do a final sweep for classified documents, you moved a bunch of boxes out, went through them, put some back, shuffled shit. You had stuff in your drawer in your desk that was classified that you would remove during that period of time. You took out 64 boxes, only put 30 back. And then you told your lawyer these were the only boxes and they'd been sitting there the whole time. You lied to them, and then you put them in a position where they lied on a form. It does say to the best of my knowledge, but the idea is that they were under the impression that you hadn't done this. And that's being generous to them, because they very well may have known that you were engaged in this conspiracy, and they just are playing dumb because they don't want to go to jail.
Now think of it. That's called obstruction.
That's obstruction. That's obstruction. Really? There's another obstruction. Let's see. That's called obstruction. That's An employee at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence drained the resort swimming pool last October and ended up flooding a room where computer servers containing surveillance video logs were kept. Sources familiar with the matter told CNN. While it's unclear if the room was intentionally flooded or if it happened by mistake, the incident occurred amid a series of events that federal prosecutors found suspicious. At least one witness has been asked by prosecutors about the flooded server room as part of the federal investigation into Trump's handling of classified documents, according to one of the sources. The incident, which has not been previously reported, came roughly 2 months after the FBI retrieved hundreds of classified documents from the Florida residence and as prosecutors obtained surveillance footage to track how White House records were moved around the resort. Prosecutors have been examining any effort to obstruct the Justice Department's investigation after Trump received a subpoena in May 22. Prosecutors have heard testimony that the IT equipment in the room was not damaged in the flood, according to one source. Yet the flooded room was as well as conversations and actions by Trump employees while the criminal investigation bore down on the club, has caught the attention of prosecutors. I love the fact that they're like, maybe flood the room, and then it didn't work, and they're like, fuck. But yeah, go ahead. Bleach bit and something made a thing. Right.
There's never been obstruction as grave as that. She did this in the face of everything, and yet...
In the face of everything.
Nobody did anything about it. The FBI and the
It's because emails don't get destroyed. Emails exist forever.
DOJ protected her, did not issue subpoenas, did not use a grand jury, did not...
Yeah, but that's because destroyed emails aren't withheld. They're not, like, she can't sell destroyed emails. She can't take a server and sell it to somebody who can rebuild it after the fact, or those phones, they can't be reconstructed so people can get the information off of them, especially after they've been bleach bit and then destroyed.
Execute search warrants, and then the corrupt head of the FBI, James Comey, declared no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case. Can you believe it?
Yes, I can. He gave you extra time. He gave you the fucking presidency.
And that was just...
So I replaced him with Chris Wray, who has been a fucking hell.
One of many items. Hillary Clinton broke the law, and she didn't get indicted. Joe Biden broke the law, and in many other ways we're finding out. And so far has not gotten indicted.
Yeah, he's the president right now. According to you, he could just declassify all these things. I mean, he technically can. He's not going to. That's the difference. You want to talk about a character difference? is that he literally could write a quiet executive order and go effective January 22nd, 2024. I hereby declassify all documents found in my facility, everywhere in non-redacted form for public consumption, blah, blah, blah. But he's not going to. It's like, no, they need to be handled well. That was a mistake. Fix that.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Well, you did everything right to be indicted. Sure.
But, you know, we're serving as a great example and
for how to deal with corrupt individuals. Yes, finally.
the case of Bill Clinton's national security advisor, remember that? Sandy Berger. He was caught stealing classified documents from the National Archives, very big ones, very important ones, by stuffing them in his pants. That's pretty. And putting them also in his socks. And he destroyed
So his sock drawer, his sock.
them and cut the tape with scissors, cut them all up. What Berger did was highly illegal, but he was given nothing, no jail time, nothing happened. There are countless other examples.
Yeah, I mean, don't go into it any further. Should we look at the Sandy Berger case? That's fun. Hold on. Yeah, here you go. Let's see. It's the Federation. It's the Farming Measure. This is yeah, April Fool's Day, which I think is wholly appropriate. Hold on. This is from the Department of Justice. Nothing happened. Nothing occurred to him. They didn't even do the thing with the thing. Okay, this is from the Department of Justice. For immediate released, April Fool's Day, 2005. USDOJ.gov, some sort of rogue agency. Former National Security Advisor Samuel Berger pleads guilty to knowingly removing classified information from the National Archives. Assistant Attorney General Christopher A. Wray. So good. That's right. Of the Criminal Division announced today that former National Security Advisor Sandy Berger has pleaded guilty to a charge of knowingly removing classified documents from the National Archives and Records Administration. Berger entered a guilty plea this morning in a federal court in Washington, D.C. to one count of violating 18 U.S.C. 1924, a misdemeanor. As part of his plea agreement, Berger has agreed to cooperate with the government concerning his activities at the National Archives. According to the facts admitted during his guilty plea, Berger was reviewing classified documents at the National Archives in July, September, and October of 2003 in connection with requests for documents made by the National Commission of Investigating Terrorist Acts upon the United States, the 9/11 Commission. On September 2nd, 2003, and again on October 2nd, Berger concealed and removed the total of 5 copies of classified documents from the archives. The documents were different versions of a single document. Berger, who possessed a security clearance and was aware of the laws and rules regarding classified documents, unlike Donald Trump, knew he was not authorized to remove classified documents from the archives. Berger took the documents to his office in the District of Columbia, where he destroyed 3 of the copies. Soon after the October visit, the archives discovered the documents were missing and 2 days later contacted Berger. Initially, Berger did not tell the archive staff that he had taken the documents, but later that night told archive staff that he had accidentally misfiled 2 of them. The next day, he returned to the archive staff the 2 remaining copies of the 5 documents he had taken during the September and October visits. Each of the 5 copies of the document were produced to the 9/11 Commission in due course. In his plea, Berger admitted that he concealed and removed his handwritten notes from the archives prior to classification review in violation of archives rules and procedures. These notes have been returned to the government. Berger faces a maximum sentence of up to 1 year in jail, a $100,000 fine, and a year of supervised release, according to the plea agreement. Berger has agreed to cooperate with the government and to surrender his security clearance. The case was investigated, blah, 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 counterterrorism. So he wrote something down during during his time in the Clinton administration, didn't want it to be the 9/11 Commission to see it, apparently, and took it home and cut it up. There were 5 copies. He destroyed 3 of them, brought 2 of them back because they discovered they were missing. Again, this might be why he didn't do any jail time, because once they asked him about him, he made up the misfiled story, and then he brought 2 of them back. Again, these were 5 copies of the same document. 3 were destroyed, 2 were brought back. There, you can see the distinction in this case between what Sandy Berger did and his admission immediately within 24 hours of what he did, and then his cooperation, and the minimalness of the documents themselves, and the fact that those documents were his notes and whatever his his reasoning for that, he ultimately pled guilty. And Chris Wray was the guy who negotiated his plea and got him to plead guilty. I don't know why that guy would be important.
Bill Clinton, who I happen to like, hard to believe, right? Before I did this, I was actually quite friendly with him. Nice guy. They should have used him a little bit more as an advisor on the 2016 election. He said, you know, you better get to Wisconsin, you're going to lose. No, we're not. You better get to Michigan, you're going to lose. No, we're not. They did. Bill Clinton lost the nuclear codes, and absolutely nothing was done about it. He lost the nuclear codes.
The story behind that. Okay. Who said Clinton lost the nuclear codes? Mr. Trump shared the story on Truth Social in the form of a tweet from Buzz Patterson, who served as a senior military aide to Mr. Clinton from 96 to 98, during which time he was one of the handful of people who carried the so-called nuclear football. Mr. Patterson, who is now a vociferous Trump supporter, tweeted the claim last week, but told the story as long ago as 2003 in a book about Mr. Clinton titled Dereliction of Duty, and is telling the incident happened in 1998. Interestingly enough, right before he was let go. He thought he had placed them upstairs, wrote Mr. Patterson, who claims the event took place just as the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke. We called upstairs, we started to search around the White House for the codes, and he finally confessed that he in fact misplaced them. He couldn't recall when he had last seen them. Mr. Patterson's story refers not to the football, but the biscuit, a card containing a set of nuclear codes that the president can carry on, by the way, on their person separate from the launch materials in the famous briefcase. A similar story was told 7 years later by former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Hugh Shelton, who claimed that codes were actually missing for months. Where Mr. Patterson dates the incident to 98, Mr. Shelton puts it later in 2000. Neither event has ever been officially confirmed by Mr. Clinton or the executive branch. Is the story true? Even the Clinton story is told by Patterson is true. It makes a poor parallel for the saga of Trump's alleged hoarding of nuclear documents. For one thing, if it was indeed the nuclear codes that went missing in the incident Mr. Patterson claims occurred, it remains true that the codes can be changed such the missing ones are useless if found. The fact this was in fact done at 12 p.m. on 20 January 2021 when Joe Biden became president because Mr. Trump refused to attend the inauguration, meaning the traditional handover of the biscuit and the football could not be carried out as usual. By the way, why is the biscuit and the football not I'm doing it. I'm trademarking right now. I'm going to do a documentary called "The Biscuit and the Football." The Biscuit and the Football. It's good. It's going to be a cartoon about an adorable post-nuclear apocalypse where a biscuit and a football who have evolved from the primordial ooze caused by the nuclear explosion become friends. Mr. Clinton's alleged loss of the codes, which even Mr. Patterson says was brief, would also not be the only time that a president is separated from the nuclear weapons apparatus. The same happened in various ways to several of the Cold War era commanders-in-chief. The codes were taken by the FBI after Ronald Reagan was shot by Hinckley, while Jimmy Carter is long rumored to have accidentally sent the codes to the dry cleaners in his suit pocket. That's a rumor, again. More importantly, however, Trump stands accused of something far more serious than innocently or negligently losing a changeable piece of nuclear launch apparatus, which cannot be used on its own. He is accused of illegally retaining classified documents. Yeah. So, no. By the way, I think every time this comes up, bullshit. Two Trump fans who decided they didn't like Clinton and one especially who was fired, and the allegation of when it happened being separate, the same event being two different times, 2 years apart. They should bring up whenever that's brought up, the objections around memories around Kavanaugh's indiscretions. They don't even know what date it happened. Well, neither does he about this story about the fucking launch codes.
The George W. Bush White House lost 22 million emails. A record.
A record. Yeah, nobody loses. Hold on. hold on. By the way, Dick Cheney doesn't lose emails. Dick Cheney gets rid of emails. We'll look at this one real quick. Fact check. There we go. Did George W. Bush use a private server too? Here's an issue now over. There's an issue now over blah blah blah. Accusations of Bush is handling emails and his administration's use of a private server reemerges Hillary Clinton's blah blah blah. The Bush email fiasco is related to the firing of 9 federal prosecutors in December 2006. Accusations of the firings were politically motivated, led to congressional hearings. During those investigations, lawmakers requested email records and were told by the Bush administration that millions of email records were not properly archived and had been effectively deleted. Citizens for Crew and the National Security Archives filed lawsuits claiming the Bush administration knew as early as 2005 that its lack of an email archiving system violated federal laws, blah, blah, blah. The Clinton administration put in place automated records management system, ARMS, that automatically captured, preserved, and categorized all emails sent through the White House email system in accordance with the Federal Records Act and the Presidential Records Act. The lawsuit alleged, however, that ARMS was deactivated in 2002 under the Bush administration, which ultimately led to millions of emails being lost. Crew determined that hundreds of days of White House emails created between 2003 and 2005 were missing, amounting to at least 5 million emails that had been deleted from the servers. Later, it was revealed that as many as 22 million emails were missing from the official record. The emails lost in part because administration officials used a private server supplied by the RNC, and no archiving system was in place, it was reported at the time. In December 2009, however, the Obama administration reported that it had recovered roughly 22 million Bush administration emails from 2003 to 2005. The emails had been mislabeled, not deleted. A settlement negotiation between Crew and the National Security Archives and the Obama administration, which inherited the lawsuits, allowed for the release of 94 days worth of emails, as trying to recover all the data would have been too expensive. Note this is documents produced so far show the Bush administration was lying when officials claimed no emails were ever missing. The record now proves incontrovertibly that the Bush administration officials deliberately ignored the problem and in fact knowingly allowed it to worsen. Meanwhile, the Associated Press reported that the former Bush White House spokesman Scott Stanzel defended the Bush White House administration. The liberal groups Crew and National Security Archive litigate for sport, distort the facts, and consistently blah blah blah. It's true that the Bush administration officials were widely believed to have lost the 22 million emails, but the emails had actually been mislabeled and some were released. That's the truth. Just saying. It's do I have to catch everybody up on every fucking thing? He just gets to lie, and this is just another Gish Gallop. And anybody who's a Trump fan, at this point, fuck is the matter with you?